All right, welcome back to the channel. We are talking Olympic cycling. We are comedians Patrick Ramirez. Dan Dowling is back with me, hot off our Tour de France. I don't know what you would call it. Recap, breakdown, just overall astonishment of all that went down. And great thing about this summer is cycling is not over. We go straight into the Olympics.
Yeah, I know. Tour de France who? I don't even remember what that is anymore.
Doesn't it feel like it was ages ago that we were talking like, does Jonas have it? I don't
Yeah.
know. It feels like
No,
that
it
was 2
does.
years ago.
So long ago.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, we didn't really have a plan to do any Olympic cycling recap. And then all of a sudden we're texting each other all the stuff that's going on in the Olympics. Like, well, we got to talk about some of this stuff. We got to break down some of these things, and we're gonna expand the scope than just the regular road race and time trial like we usually do. Because Dan, I watched a lot of cycling, and I went outside the box, my normal box. I watch women's tri, men's tri. I'm watching track currently. I think I watched everything but BMX, possibly. Are there any other cycling events I left out?
I don't think we get.
Do they have a unicycle event?
No, we don't get. When the worlds are on, you get some weird stuff like the artistic cycling and cycle ball, but that has not been.
Yeah. Well, in a world where we included 3-on-3 basketball this year.
Yeah, I'm confused
like, why
by
not?
that.
3-on-3 basketball was one of the oddest things I think I watched, because at first I was like, oh, this is cool. And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, what the hell is going on in this game? Like, what are the rules? How the ball's different? And then I was like, okay, maybe we have too many sports.
Yeah, who benefits from that? It's like I'm assuming anyone who's good at 3x3 or whatever, 3-on-3, can also play regular basketball.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get it. Surfing
I'll tell you which
as well.
one's more enjoyable to watch is regular basketball.
They're playing on half a court, so it definitely looks
like you're waiting at the YMCA.
Total YMCA kind of feel to it, because the crowd is cheering. The venue is good, but you're like, is this a good venue or not? Because it's half a court.
Yeah,
and I don't know. All the refs are out of shape middle-aged men too.
I like that. Good to see representation.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little Olympic cycling big picture. First of all, do you like the Olympics and cycling in general? Is it an afterthought to you, or were you ready to go this year?
No, well, I'm always stoked. I mean, I honestly, since the London 2012 road race, I've just been a huge fan of the Olympic road race. I think it's one of those rare days where it's extra long and extra hard, and but you know, they've had different. We've had so many different sort of Olympic champions too. So it's like possible for almost anyone to win the race, it feels like. And in fact, we could talk about the women's race because that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's just like a cool one-day race. It feels so rare. It's interesting because it's the only race in cycling where people care to at least a relatively high degree about the second and third placings as well. Because everyone, they want that medal, you know. So like there's a different set of tactics that comes in, and that also came into play, I think, in the women's race. But so to answer your question, yeah, I'm all in. I love it. And then as it's one of the rare, I'm a big track cycling fan. I used to race on the track, and it's one of the rare opportunities to actually see track cycling on television, at least. So I get pretty stoked on that. Like I'm not, I can't say I'm not a huge follower of the BMX stuff, but I try to check it out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It's interesting. It has built-in drama for the cycling fan. It has built-in drama for the non-cycling fan as well, because it's just such an iconic sport as far as like its look. Like, you see a bunch of riders on the bicycle going through the streets of Paris or whatever city. It just looks cool. And you're like, yeah, this is a premier event for the Olympics, is a bicycle race. I find it interesting that I think the racers have taken the Olympics much more seriously in the last 3 or 4 Olympics. I always thought it was a bit of an afterthought. And now it sends, maybe ever since they started giving the winner a gold helmet for the next 4 years to wear in regular road races, maybe that has changed it. But they were taking it seriously this year. Like, if we go to, yeah, if we go to Remco, like his big goal was the Olympics time trial. Chloe Dygart's big goal was the Olympics time trial. Like this was on their calendar. Chloe Dygart, for one, it was such her goal that she had 4 race days this year going into the Olympic time trial. Like, I know she's on a team, but she wasn't really on this team all year. She did her 4 races and then just trained on her own for this event. And she's in the track as well. So this is a big deal now, it seems. And I think it's really, really cool just to see. But my other thought was, what's interesting about cycling in the Olympics is the time trial was essentially like one of the first events of the Olympics. And then a week later is the road race. So don't you think that'd be kind of cool if, say, you did the time trial and then you had a whole week to kind of hang out, go on your little training rides, but essentially you got like 5 days to just kind of soak it in till the road race, and then that's your Olympics experience. Like, you get a whole week there. Pretty fun. Yeah. Like, I would have a good time with that.
I would probably have way too good of a time, and like
I would too.
I mean, that's actually, now that you bring that up, it does make Remco's, you know, follow-up win that much more impressive, because he had to stay kind of in the zone all week. Like, if he would have celebrated, you know, he couldn't rest on, oh, I already got my gold, so what do I got to lose in the road race? Like, no, like he needed to stay focused and not go eat, you know, Parisian junk food or whatever. And, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, who are the partiers of the cycling peloton? Like, who's in who's like, yeah, I qualified, good enough for me. I don't care what happens in the road race. I don't care what happens in the TT. I'm going out this week. You know, like, I'm going to see what's up with these chicks from Canada. Like, you know, like, who are these partiers that, like, those are the stories that I am a little bit more interested in hearing. But you're right. Remco is just the focus to take the men's time trial and the road race in that fashion. I don't know if we've talked enough about Remco this summer because he got 3rd in the Tour, which was a big surprise. We didn't think it was going to be that good in the Tour. He wins both Olympic events. And now Vuelta coming up, World Championships coming up. Maybe his summer's not even done. What were your impressions? Let's start with the men's TT. What were your impressions on the Remco TT?
My impressions were, I'm going to pass on that one, Patrick, because I only watched like the highlights.
Well, I mean, there are not too many highlights of a TT, you're right. But it was Remco first, Filippo Ganna second, Wout van Aert third. So
that was the surprising thing. Wout van Aert, like, because, like, where did he come from? Like,
that's what I was going to say. Like,
a great summer.
Mustered up a lot of fitness to get that 3rd place in it. And are you a little bummed out if you're Filippo Ganna for not doing the Tour? Because he's the only guy of those 3 that didn't do the Tour, and he gets 2nd. Now, Remco had a huge time gap, of course, but Ganna, is he bummed out or is he okay with that? He had track events too, and he almost crashed. I don't know if you saw that. He almost went into the barriers.
Oh, I didn't see that. And Team Pursuit, or?
I saw him in the Team Pursuit. I don't know if he has another event on the track.
He's afraid. Well, to go back to the initial question, I don't know. I think he's had to have known by now that Remco can match him. I mean, Remco's the current time trial world champion too, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So he's beaten. I mean, Ghana's obviously really good, and they have on certain courses, one's going to be like better than the other, but like on like kind of all around courses, they seem to be pretty equal. So I don't know. It's like he could have gone to the Tour and maybe get a few second places in the time trials. Like, but if he was concentrating, I'm assuming he was really concentrating on his track program because he thinks he can probably get multiple medals. And that is pretty antithetical to Tour preparation, right? I mean, his weight could have varied between 15-20 pounds potentially. Between his Tour weight.
Yeah, you're right. If his goal was the road race, then Tour for sure. If his goal is the TT, now we're a little bit more of a discussion whether the Tour would have been good for that, or you would have seen a difference or not, because he did get the silver.
Yeah.
All right, the women's TT, much more drama in this one because we had rain, multiple crashes going on in this event. Grace Brown, Australia, wins it. Anna Henderson, Great Britain, second. And USA, Chloe Dygert, third. Now, third by a minute 32. So this was a phenomenal effort by Grace Brown. But I mean, the more enjoyable thing was all the crashes
Yeah.
in this race. And I don't know if you're like me, but I get some sick satisfaction of people crashing on TT bikes.
I hear you. I do too. I mean, I don't want anyone to be hurt, obviously, but like those things are so ridiculous.
They really are. And the poor women are riding in like a pretty technical circuit.
Yeah.
Cobblestones onto pavement, wet. I mean, there was some really tight corners too with the barriers as well. So there's some that was a really tough course.
And I don't get why like they design every time trial bike as if every time trial takes place basically in a flat wind tunnel. Like,
Yeah.
why
Right.
can't they start bringing in handling and
Yeah.
better rear traction and these different things that are clearly lacking, the weight distribution and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And because you're not going slow if you're on the ground, right? I mean, you're not going fast if you're on the ground. I don't care how aero
Yeah.
you are.
Not to mention these riders spend far less time on these TT bikes than they do their road bikes.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah,
You know, so there's, I mean, just the time spent on it is different. We saw it at the tour. Every time Remco and Pogacar are warming down from the stage, it's on their time trial bike.
yeah.
And at first I thought it was because the upcoming time trial, but they did it after all the time trials too were done. They cooled down on it.
I wonder if they just, when they're on the trainer on the time trial bike and get in their forearm position, they're just like half asleep, like this is.
Oh, it's a good place to rest your head.
Yeah, basically, yeah. They're like, dude, I've been holding up my head and upper body for the last 5 hours. I'm gonna go just chill and spin out my legs.
The other USA story in the women's TT, we had this girl, Taylor Knibb, who was the TT participant for the US, along with Chloe Dygert. I think she crashed 5 times. And at one point, her mechanic crashed in giving her Maya bike, too. He was all over the place.
Yeah.
She came in. And you know what I got to say for the cameraman? We can discuss the coverage of these cycling events in a second. But the slow motion shot of the athletes finishing the TT is never complimenting.
Right.
I mean, she came in, her face was all twisted. Her helmet was on the back of her head like some sort of yarmulke. She looked like shit. I'm like, we got to get rid of this shot, guys. Like, the athletes cannot like this. Nobody looks good in a TT helmet, especially after they've crashed 5 times.
Right.
I was like, poor girl, like, this is not doing our sport any good.
We love those slow motion close-ups of frothing at the mouth and all that stuff. Oh yeah, it's gross. Like, I don't need to see it. Like, I know they're working hard. I don't need to see like their pre-vomit or whatever.
Well, all right, let's carry this momentum into the men's and women's road race. Remco wins the road race.
Patrick, I'm going to have to say one thing, though, quick, because one thing we haven't even mentioned.
Oh, what did I leave out?
Cross country.
Oh, you want to talk MTB first?
Not necessarily, but I believe it went time trial, MTB, road race.
Yeah, you're right.
And just because we have mentioned some track, we have mentioned some BMX, and we haven't even, I just wanted to make sure we have a placeholder in that so we can talk about my man Pidcock.
All right, well, let's talk about Pidcock. He won the mountain bike gold medal in classic Pidcock fashion, where he has some sort of problem or mechanical, and he comes all the way back in that like amazing last lap pass.
That pass was like Days of Thunder or something, It's just like,
oh yeah, that was a little shake and bake, you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was just one of those things where it's like, that is so sketch, but fine, technically. Like, he didn't there was no, and like, but who would even think of it, I guess? Or who would commit to that level? Like, I guess that's part of the difference. Like, because like, there is a decent chance you're going to crash at full speed and bring down the other guy with you.
Yeah.
Or, just get, it was his one chance, I guess, maybe he thought to pass, but like, that was just insane. And for him to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, that's a good point. Like, the fact that he pulled it off. And they had a couple angles of the pass too, which was nice, because at first it looks like Pidcock kind of cuts him off and they do a little rubbing as racing. And a second angle, what was the guy's name? I have it here somewhere. Koretsky.
Yeah.
He dabs and goes off the trail and puts a foot down before that. So it wasn't exactly like Pidcock cut him off. Like
no,
the window was there.
One to the line by like just barely, right?
Yeah, and then, like it was so close to the end, too. So like I found it to be a completely clean pass and win for Pidcock. So that was pretty amazing. They covered it well. It made mountain biking look really fun. Like I wanted to go mountain biking after watching it. I was like, that looks like fun. I want to go do that.
It's funny though. I actually got kind of slightly scared, you know, because I have a mountain bike and I have been mountain biking a little bit. But I'm like, I can't imagine, like, just like going at it that hard on these courses. Like, I would die so quickly. Like, like if not from, you know, a heart attack from a crash. Just like the gnarly features are going down at full speed now. It's insane.
That course looked man-made to be neck cracking, neck breaking. Like some of those rock gardens were like, some of it's like whatever you see on camera looks really crazy hard, but I bet that was just as hard as it looked on camera. Just the lines they had to take through that rock garden. The one French girl in her mountain bike race looked like she knocked herself unconscious.
She did.
Yeah, the camera cut away after she didn't even get up, so we don't even know what happened to her.
I was like, her bike slammed into the back of her head. That's like a rabbit punch in boxing, you know? Like that'll put you down.
Mm-hmm. That was brutal. That looked like exactly like what I would think happened looking at that rock garden. Like someone's going to crash and fall on their head, and she did it.
Yeah,
that was brutal. That course was brutal. There was a couple shots where like there was a tree in the middle, and they had to take a right or left line. I was like,
that was kind of what Pidcock took advantage of too, right? It was
that's
a tree line choice on a freaking steep downhill. And you're just like, in a turn too, like coming out of a turn. It's.
Mm-hmm. What do you think would have happened if Koretsky rode that last lap clean? Do you think Pidcock passes him in the sprint?
I mean, Koretsky had already started to gap him. I don't know. I don't know about the sprinting abilities of either of them. They looked pretty equal, though, in terms of fitness and drive. So, I mean, forcing the mistake was probably the best strategy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's so hard to say.
Yeah, and the races
there's so few true mountain bike sprints too, right? So there's not like a huge data set you can look at.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm playing catch up on all the mountain bike athletes too. I don't know what they're exactly good at or not good at. I don't know exactly how long these races are either. I don't know what the rules are. They talk about a little bit with the pit crew, because Pidcock gets the front flat and he gets it at almost the best time to get it, where he just lets a few places pass him, and then he's at the pit. And then I listened to on a pod, the mechanic who was running to get Pidcock's front wheel was also the mechanic for another athlete, and he ran to the wrong tent to get the wheel. No. So it took a little bit extra, but Pidcock was calm.
That explains that. Yeah,
it was a slow
change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I actually didn't know this about cross-country racing, that you can't do bike changes.
Right, that's true. You had to fix your own bike or get a wheel. That's all you could do.
Yeah, you could swap parts, but you can't. Yeah, if your frame breaks, you're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It was interesting. I thought it was a big win for mountain biking because it looked fun. The course was cool. We get to learn about these athletes, and it was a spectacular finish too.
They're getting better. I will say they are getting better and better year to year on the coverage of like how they film mountain biking. Because it's hard to watch in person. It's hard to watch on television.
A couple of great drone shots.
Yeah, it's the drones, really. It's just like, you can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah. At some point, like, since they're doing multiple laps, you as the fan knows the course. And you're like, oh, they're coming up to that one turn. Here it comes. Like, you're invested a lot more in the race as opposed to the time trial or the road race as well. So I thought it was a big win for at least the men's mountain bike. The women's mountain bike, with, what's her name? Pauline Prevost, ran away with it after the second lap.
Yeah.
And then announces she's going full road next year and wants the women's Tour de France. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Let's have the race tomorrow. Let's go. I loved it.
I didn't catch that after race comment from her. That's pretty
Uh-huh.
awesome.
She wants the women's tour.
Leaving with a mic drop.
And ironically, both these athletes, Pidcock and Prevost, both ride for Ineos. So Ineos actually won something this summer, Dan.
Oh, were they both on Pinarellos then too? They must have been.
They were.
Yeah,
Yeah, and their
yeah. There were
trade
some
teams.
fancy Pinarellos that they'd been, had shown up on GCN a few times. Just that they were developing for the Olympics. So I guess maybe they did something
Yeah,
right.
that's the other thing. I would have liked to seen a little bit more on the bikes, like who did a
Yeah,
hardtail, who did a dual suspension.
yeah. There are definitely some hardtails out there.
Yeah, I saw a lot of hardtails. That would have been nice to see as well. A little equipment deep dive. And maybe that's what I'm experiencing with the Olympics this year because I go on the Peacock app and you can choose your sport. You're like, oh, I want to watch this. Here's a replay. This is live. It's almost like having all the sports is like having none of the sports because I can't say I've really watched anything other than the cycling stuff. Everything else, I just put a little replay or I see like a hot girl athlete who's like in the triple jump. I'm like, guess what? I'm watching triple jump. But then I turn it on, but then I put it on mute so I can watch something else.
Yeah.
And then I watch 5 minutes of it, and then I'm on Instagram typing in all their names. I have watched nothing essentially. It's too much sports. What do you do with the Olympics and the Peacock app?
I was gonna say I like it because for once, like Olympics are on. Like I'm not a huge. It's not that I dislike gymnastics. I hate at least the American coverage of gymnastics, and of track and field as well. I mean, so I can watch the sports I want to watch, which have better commentators, and I don't have to try to follow some schedule or I have to try to record stuff. I mean, yeah, the Olympics are very it wasn't that long ago when you'd have to try to set up the DVR to catch some cycling.
Yeah, yeah, and whatever coverage they were going to show prime time, the important stuff, gymnastics or swimming, but you were at the mercy of their coverage. That was about it.
Yeah, now it really just feels like I can pick it. I can literally watch everything. But yeah, there is, it is an overwhelming amount of, the selection's crazy. Yeah, there's some things I'm just never going to see. People keep on talking about, well, I've heard that there's breakdancing, and then people are talking about flag football, but I guess that's for the next Olympics. But I'm like, you could have told me flag football was in this one.
Yeah.
I would have had no idea.
It's pretty hard, too, because the Olympics is like 2.5 weeks. So we're kind of just learning this app as it's all going. It's not like we had a practice round of this app for NFL or the Tour de France. Like I'm trying to figure out what's the gold zone? Oh, how do I put these notifications on? Do I watch recaps? Do I watch replays? Like, I'm utilizing probably 15% of the app and not knowing what the other stuff does because it's just so much going on there. But if you're looking for something specific, I got to say it's not that hard to find it. And that's really good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue the cycling week because the men's and women's triathlon was in the middle of the week. And first, let me ask you this. I don't know if you agree with this. If you are a cyclist, traditional cyclist, for some reason, you are diametrically opposed to triathlons and triathletes. They are our overachievers in the cycling world. We don't respect them as bike handlers. We don't respect them as far as being able to race multiple varieties of terrain, uphill, downhill, crits, things like that. And yet they're phenomenal athletes. But what is it about triathlons that we dislike? Or do you even share that opinion of mine?
No, I kind of do, but I think it comes less from the world of professional triathlons and more from the very, very goofy world of, the charity triathlon, which is have you ever been to one of those?
No.
I have. They're crazy. Yeah, a buddy of mine was working for Disney a few years ago, and they would sign up for the Malibu Triathlon, and they would just you could split up into teams though. So one person swam, one ran, one cycled, and someone dropped out, so they need a cyclist. He's like, "Oh, do you want to come do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it was just a trip. It was just backwards helmets,
yeah, that's true.
John Cryer from Half and 2.5 Men was doing it and crashed really hard. And it was literally up and back down PCH. Like there was no reason to be Yeah. Like I remember I like this was I was younger and much fitter. I bunny hopped like some speed
John
bumps and stuff.
Cryer? Oh.
Not actually, yeah, I wish. No.
You're like, so long, ducky.
He couldn't catch my 27-year-old ass. Um no, like I bunny hopped some speed bump and another dude next to me was just like, that dude just flew, or like he was just like amazed. He had never seen anything like
You're a
it. Or
legend.
so cool. Yeah. I was like,
Legend of the Malibu Tri.
yeah, and now I'm probably am that guy. I see some young person go, "Oh, wow, look at that."
Yeah,
But
I don't
yeah,
know what
so
it is
I
about
think that's it because
triathlon.
we're going out every week. We have our code, our rules we follow, especially as roadies.
Right.
And then the triathletes are just rolling up, and you're like, "Why are you in your sneakers?" And like,
Mm-hmm. Why are
and
your
what?
socks so short?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, why are you sticking energy bars to your top tube?
right,
Like they are the dorks
yeah.
of the cycling world.
It's
And
like,
this is
why
where,
is it a cropped tank top? Like, one or
yeah,
the
why am I
other,
looking
man.
at your lower back
Yeah, why
this
even
whole
do it?
ride?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm convinced triathlons were invented for adults with ADD. Just like,
yeah,
hey, are you bored with your life? Well, here's something to do. Not something, here's three things to do. And here you
yeah.
go. Just do it till you get too tired. And this is where I get fearful when we experience this in the Tour de France time trials where the helmets and the equipment are getting so crazy. I just want to say, like, guys, we are getting dangerously close to triathlons. There
Right.
has to be some romance or some elegance to our sport. We can't just put pure performance in front of things. Next thing you know, we're going to be riding our bikes in our Speedos. And we can't have that. Dan, hold me back.
Well, on everything but the speedos. I mean, that's just
It can't happen.
at my age, that's the only way I can get aroused, Patrick. Okay.
Right. Hey, there's a new Olympic sport right there.
Yeah.
All right, so the women's road TT I
Wow.
watch, or sorry, try I watch. It's a little wet again. It's 40 Ks. I think I counted 20 something crashes, Dan,
Jesus.
in this race because they can draft. And here's back to the idiocy of triathlons. You swim, then they go to the bike, then they go to the run. And in the bike, you're allowed to draft. So you just ride regular road bikes. I have no idea why these idiots will go off the front or drag the back group. Or like they do the one thing where like the one girl's riding super, super hard. Everybody's lined out. And then after all, she looks back and goes, come on. I'm like, well, they're not going to come around you
Yeah.
if you're riding super hard. And then the one person rides in the front by herself for 2 laps for 10 seconds ahead of the field the whole time. I feel like if any triathlete had any road knowledge, they would be 20% better at this sport.
Yeah.
All they do is ride hard, and then they run. Were you like me yelling at the screen the whole time you watch a triathlon, the bike part?
I didn't watch. I only watched some of the men's race, and I just found it to be so undynamic. I guess that
It really is. Yeah, it really is
not at
essentially
all.
neuter the middle part of the
Yeah, it
triathlon because
really
you can
is.
draft. I mean, it's the dynamics of it. You can draft.
Yeah, and
And
it's like
there's
I know there's benefit to being out front and swimming, obviously,
Mhm.
and I don't know if there's a hydrodynamic advantage or any kind of draft you can do in swimming, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think there's something in swimming in someone's wake, but I think they can easily be separated. The
Yeah,
stronger swimmers easily separate, and
and I
it's far
think
less
there's got to
interactive.
be some level of if it's a windy day at least, and given that they're doing loops, there's got to be some level of drafting or at least wind protection in the run too. So really,
Hmm.
every triathlon should just come down to a final 100-meter sprint, right?
Yeah, yeah. I used to work with someone at a bike store who was a high-end triathlete, and I was like, "Who are the best athletes that win triathlons?" He's like, "Oh, it's runners. Like whoever can run the best usually is in the mix. So if you have the bike in the middle, it's essentially neutralized the race to the run. So it's not like if you say you finish the bike portion 10 seconds up on the field and you have 10 seconds in the run, it's
Yeah,
not significant if someone's good
right.
at running
And it's
who's
like
in
they
that field.
pause it.
And
You
they,
can lose it in the transition. Yeah,
yeah, I don't like any races where it could be won or lost in how fast you could put on your helmet.
yeah, yeah.
Very strange. Now, if you flipped it and you had the run in the middle, the bike at the end, now I think we'd have some drama. Think about that, triathlon.
Right. No, I think
Think
that's
about
true.
that.
Yeah, I like
That
that.
being said, the men's triathlon came down to like the last, like, I don't know, 25 meters of the run, and the guy passed him or something. And I was like, all right, well, that's exciting. But beyond that, triathletes just make me a little uncomfortable and mad.
Right.
Maybe it's the no socks thing.
Yeah, that's trouble. Yeah, that's troublesome. We should start thinking.
All right, let's talk about the road races now.
There we go.
All
Oh wait,
right,
hold
let's.
on. I have one quick question on the triathlons because I didn't follow it
Hmm.
that closely. But I heard, were there people throwing up after the swim?
Oh,
You
I
know?
saw a guy throw up after the run
Okay.
of the triathlon. Yeah, he came through not in the medals, and he just like let one go.
Fatigue
It was
or
awesome.
or the toxic water of the
Yeah,
sand.
that's. I was gonna say like
Right.
it can't be fatigue because this is like I'm looking at the time. It's like 2 hours.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
they swim for 3 miles, run bike for 40K, and the run is 10K.
yeah,
Now I know they're going super hard, of course. No one is just cruising, but yeah, I saw one guy throw up, and I heard one guy got some like some disease from the water after
yeah.
the race. So
That's
that's
what
pretty
I.
cool.
that,
I like that the water's dirty, Dan.
that added at least an interesting wrinkle to the
I like that the
proceedings.
water's dirty. Like, let's make this sport. I mean, it should be a difficult sport. It
Yeah,
can't be easy.
right.
I like it. I saw a guy throw up, so that was cool. All right, road race talk. Time for the real deal, the main event. You want to talk men's or women's first?
We'll start with men's because we'll
All
end
right,
with
so
guys.
yeah,
Save the
men's
best spot.
Remco wins it. Belgium had the good mix of team. Flat tire, I think at 3K to go. And my favorite part, I even texted you this. Remco puts his hand up to signal he needs a bike change, and Bob Roll goes, he's already celebrating.
Yeah.
Like, Bob Roll, could we have a more detached American announcer for cycling, Dad? It's time for Bob Roll to go out to pasture. And then, ironically, Phil Liggett retired after
He
these
did.
Olympics. Did you see that? Yeah, he retired
No.
from announcing.
Thank you, Joe Biden. I swear, it's having a ripple effect. Thank you.
Two elderly men stepped down this month.
No, I swear to God, like Joe Biden is giving license all these old men who are like still working. They're like, oh wait, maybe I am kind of a problem here. Like,
Maybe that's the trend.
and it's not. I mean, it's for me. It's just like we gotta come on, man. Like, let the next guy do the job, right? Like,
Yeah, it's time. Like Phil Liggett he's just like a casual observer at this point,
yeah,
where he knows most of the names. But I think watching, I don't know if it was him or Bob Roll, but in the women's race, Chloe Dygert crashes. They show the lady getting up. You can see her number, and they go, Kristen Faulkner's down. I'm like, that's not Kristen Faulkner. That's Chloe Dygert. She wears pink shoes. We know that. And the number is showing. You can easily look at the number.
Yeah.
I don't get how they flub names this frequently.
yeah, especially for like the main audience. Like, yeah, they should have those memorized down. Pretty.
How nervous were you with the Remco flat?
I wasn't nervous when I saw the time gap. I mean, because yeah, I saw that. I mean, yeah, the team car was there. Um, I was more nervous for the poor mechanic. He was just yelling at like,
Yeah.
like flashbacks being bullied by like some
Right.
blonde fit boy.
Yeah. Remco pulls to the left side of the road when you usually pull to the right side of the road for flat tire changes. Throws the bike. He's like yelling and screaming.
Yeah,
It was a lot of drama that could have ruined the race, but he had plenty of time with it, which leads me to my next. I think this is the biggest question of the Olympics road race, though, Dan, is no race radios, smaller teams. So he's got a flat. All he can do is wave his hand
yeah,
to signal he needs a bike. The mechanic, and I was in the dark. It's like, is the mechanic's car behind Remco or is the mechanic's car behind Madouas, who was alone in second? Because if that car was behind Madouas, forget it. He can't get up to him.
I
But
thought he
think
already
it was,
had over a minute. I thought he had over a minute.
right. He had I think he had over a minute, so the car was behind him. But say it was a minute or 45 seconds, there's no way.
Yeah.
That car would not have been there to service him. So radios, were you on no radios in these international events?
Oh, I love him. I think it's great. I mean, I think
You
it's
love it.
Yeah, I
Really?
love it. Yeah, it's part of what makes the race fun and makes it makes it feel like old school racing tactics and all that stuff.
I I'm with
And
you in that it's
honestly,
a
what I like to do is it helps disperse any tension within a team because there's not a coach saying, this is what you got to do. You got to sacrifice yourself for Remco. It's kind of a good thing for the big teams because they're all like, hey, we got to race this. We got to react to the race like everybody else does.
Yeah.
So tactics are going to, reveal themselves.
Well,
So
I
like
agree with you in that point. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I'll agree with you that. I'll disagree is it makes a really hard sport even harder. Because imagine if you played football, but there was no scoreboard. As soon as someone's off the front and you can't see them, the group can't see them, how the hell do you know what the gap is? You're depending on the motorcycles to tell you. It's really, really hard to know. So Madawas, Remco gets the flat. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know Remco had. Remember last year in the World Championships when Van der Poel crashed, Van Aert and the other guy didn't know he crashed because there was no radios. It's really difficult to communicate with the riders, with each other, and the team car itself too. And then I went back. Do you remember last Olympics in the women's road race? Annemiek van Vleuten wins the field sprint not knowing there was a rider in front of her, and she thought she had the gold medal for like 5 minutes.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then she's like crying, and then a minute later she's like, oh my God.
It's over. Okay. Yeah.
I just don't think eliminating radios does more than it hurts. I see potential disaster with no radios.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they need to come. I don't know. I would think that they could get a little bit better about having some tools that everyone can reference.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it'll have to be motor based. At least at the finish line, though, they should say like what place you're coming into, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we figured out time checks. Like somehow, like when you do a TT time check, it shows you your time versus the leader. I think they do anyway. Something like that could be maybe some time checks along the road.
Yeah,
would be good. Like, hey, time check at 50K, and then you look up and say, okay, they got 4 minutes or whatever. Maybe some sort of technology like that could eliminate the being in the dark of no race radios.
And we all love a good false celebration.
That's true. Maybe it'd be good for parody. We could enjoy it. It definitely lends itself to a more, I guess you would say, almost like if you're racing amateurs. There's no radios.
So it reminded me of like racing in law school a little bit. Like,
you just go. Yeah. You just go. And then before we get to the women's race, these were 4-man teams that they had. And at first, the discussion all week was like, how do you control a race with 4-man teams? Hey, don't forget some countries have 1 rider.
Right.
Some countries have 2. Some countries have 3. The big countries have 4. Isn't that bullshit? What if Team USA in basketball was playing 5-on-4? Shouldn't we have all the same riders?
That is, I think, probably something I would more readily get behind. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and every year in World Championships, it's the same thing. So the big countries have the full allotment, and the smaller don't. It never dawned on me that that's total BS.
Yeah.
To have that, and then the whole discussion this week was like only 4 riders. That's difficult. And then I thought like, well, what if you had a smaller? Maybe this isn't a bad idea. Say you had a 5-rider team for the Tour de France. Now, all of a sudden, like just a team with muscle can't just power in the flats every day, all day. I'm like, maybe I'm coming around to this smaller team idea.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Maybe 4-rider teams with 1 sub. And you're like, hey, you can bring in your sub whenever you want, but that guy's out. Who you replace, like baseball, like you can replace him in the lineup, but that guy can't come back. Maybe. Like it really sparked some ideas in my head, Dan, that I did not think I was going to have going into that. I was like, I like smaller teams now.
Coming to the XCL, presented by Patrick Ramirez.
I know. Watch, next I'm going to be doing triathlons, Dan. Hold me back. Second time in this show, you need to hold me back. And what was my last thought? Oh, yeah. What do you think about this? 4-man teams, Remco wins the gold medal. Why don't we give the gold medal to all 4 members of the team?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it goes back to the team. They need to figure out if cycling's a team sport or not. Right?
Yeah, because this could eliminate the infighting that we have every year at World Championships or Olympics. And then I'll go even one further. why not a Tour de France win for that whole team? Like, we always say cycling is a team sport, but there's only one motherfucker who really benefits from winning, and that's the guy. So why not a yellow jersey for the whole team, or at least something? Like, every player on the football team gets a Super Bowl ring that wins the championship. What do you think about that? Should we expand the notion of team in cycling?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, now I'm like thinking from the other perspective of, well, how did this all start? And it's obviously it was coal miners racing, right? Like by themselves. And then someone who had a little more cash paid someone else to help them. And that, just evolved and evolved. But it was still always just who's the fastest guy. So
yeah,
that would definitely change that aspect quite a bit. And I will say, when you said everybody gets a ring, I was reminded of, like, in high school, this kind of insufferable doofus who wore the, like, championship football ring. But he was
oh, really? Like the state championship ring or something?
Yeah, but he just filmed the games or whatever, He, like, filmed practices.
Oh!
And he got a ring. He was, like, technically, I guess he was on the team somehow for that.
Huh. That's a stretch.
So, and I was like, yeah, so maybe,
wow, that guy should sign up for a triathlon.
Yeah. I got a medal.
Great season, right, guys?
Right.
You like how I zoomed in that one time? Okay, biggest story of the Olympic cycling for me is this women's road race, though.
You're goddamn right it is.
Kristen Faulkner, USA, gold medal, USA.
Yes.
And she was this. Here's what you cannot say. The group behind her was looking at each other. Such and such crash, and she got lucky. She was the strongest rider in this field,
and she smart. Won it was such a good decision to attack when she did.
She was stringing out the peloton before they bridged up to the Voss group, and it took me a couple rewatches to realize this. Kopecky is hanging on for dear life on her wheel on those little climbs, which was also funny because they put the feed zone in the climb.
Saying, like, oh yeah, that was insane. Yeah, that was
bad course setup on that one.
Yeah, that was where Remco attacked too, right?
Remco attacked there too. Yeah, course setup was a little unusual. The Swiss guy in the men's race was like, he was on the wheel and he's like, fuck it, I need a bottle. I'm dropped. Like, it was just over. He made the business decision, like, I have to take a bottle in the feed zone. I'm dropped.
Yeah. It was insane. They need to, that was kind of messed up. But, yeah, no, they kept up with Kopecky on her wheel. They were like, oh, yeah, whoa, I think, the wily veteran, she's just hanging on and,
that's what I thought.
But it never really looked like that to me. Like,
really? You knew she was struggling.
It didn't look like she, I don't know. I mean, first of all, I've never seen someone pull that off that well in a two-person group.
Me neither.
Like, there's been some, there was someone who won a small group sprint in the Tour. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was a Colombian dude or something, or who just kind of came out of nowhere and won because he was just no one knew who he was, and he was able to kind of stealthily sit in a little bit more. But yeah, I was like, she's not like, it doesn't look like she's got much there. And then, so. But by the same token, I've never seen Kristen Faulkner before, never seen her ride. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, if they really work, they might be able to bridge and see what happens. But I'm like, but she's going to be tanked by the time they bridge.
Yeah.
And no, because she doesn't necessarily have she's not like Remco on the bike. She's not like that super supple, smooth pedaling style.
Yeah. I didn't know like anything about her. I know Voss can sprint. I know Kopecky is the world champion, is awesome, everything. I didn't know that Hungarian girl.
Yeah, I didn't know the Hungarian either. Yeah, but I'm like,
and Faulkner
Voss is never. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I was getting nervous when she's chasing with Kopecky and they're like 7 seconds back and they're taking pulls. And I'm thinking, like, you're going to bring Kopecky back and give her this win. But then we're realizing every time Kopecky goes to the front, the gap kind of stayed the same or increased. Every time Faulkner went to the front, the gap closed. So I was thinking, like, you have to attack and get to those front two. You can't drag Kopecky with you. But she had it in the legs. She knew she was strong.
Yeah, and that was sort of the tell for Kopecky, too. That's when I was like, she did go. She's like begrudgingly went to the front, and then the gap went back up. And I'm like, she wouldn't let the gap Even if she
Right.
was trying to sit in, she'd still at least try to maintain the gap, right? Maintain
Mm-hmm.
the pace. But she was clearly slowing them down when she was in front.
Yeah. And I don't know if she did this on purpose, but like they had 5 seconds gap for like a kilometer and a half. And I got to think like, oh, are they not going to bring this back? Maybe she was purposely waiting because when they got back on, it wasn't more than a couple hundred meters when she launched off the front. It was
Yeah.
so perfect.
Well, yeah, it was the classic. I won't. Yeah, it seems like was she? Oh, I'm gonna hang him out there a little bit longer to make it look like it's been harder for me to bridge than it is, because I'm going to attack essentially immediately when they're like, oh, this guys just got on. They're gonna sit on our wheels for 90 seconds or something. We're not going to let them make them pull. When someone catches up with the breakaway riders, they
Yeah.
typically let them sit in for a little
Right.
bit.
And we had that little slowing of it. They all
Right.
look at each other and then we're like, okay, now who can
Let's
sprint?
start pulling.
Not in this case. She just shot
Right.
off.
She's just
and
like, well, that's when I'm going to attack.
it was so great, and she had a gap. And the only one who tried to chase her was that Hungarian girl, Vass. And that was it. She didn't have it. Voss and Kopecky were like, all right, we'll just go for second at this point. It was over.
Yeah.
It was so over. She was powering away, and it was just like perfect amount of time for you, the viewer, sitting at home going, USA's going to win. We got 2 kilometers to celebrate. They're showing her parents in the stands.
There's a Homer, Alaska, evidently.
Right. We get to hear her story a few times over, too. And then I think you texted me this. She crosses the finish line and just keeps riding. She didn't celebrate. No, nothing. She's just gone out of the screen.
Did she not know that she won?
Does she need another? Does she think there's another lap? Does she think the finish line is over there? Like, that was the only thing that kind of robbed us. But she started celebrating when she got off the bike. But that was such a great event. We're like, oh, okay, this is our new hero. And then instantly it's like, she's doing the Tour de France women's, right? We got to have her in the women's. This is so great.
She's still doing track events, isn't she?
Or does she have to drop she was doing track events. That's true. I don't know.
Is she in the? I assumed she.
Well, I peeked at the women's pursuit, so I saw that result. But I don't know if she was on that team. I got to go back and look.
Omnium rider. I don't know.
But, is she doing the Omnium?
I don't know. She wouldn't have been on check. But I was going to say one of the most fascinating parts of that race was the fact that she attacked, and like you said, the Hungarian woman did try to counter it a little bit.
She tried,
and Voss and Kopecky were just like over it. If that group had been any larger or any smaller, I think it would have been much different. But as it worked out, the three of them knew that one of them had to be a non-medal recipient, right?
Oh, that's so rough.
At that point, they're like, I just don't want to be fourth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of track events too, and when they come down to 4 people, you're like, oh, someone's going to be left out here.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to go home crying. So, yeah, when that happens, I'm like, oh, no. You like, if you saw that group of 4, Faulkner, Kopecky, Marianne Voss, and this Vass girl, you'd be like, Vass, fourth. Like, like you would instantly say that. And she got the 4. I don't know what she does in that situation any other way. That's just so tough.
Yeah.
That was a great.
Other than that, hopefully she'll be back race. Because I think this was Voss's 13th Olympics, probably.
Yeah, I think Voss was just like, when's next Olympics?
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus, she is a machine. She's been going for so hard for so long.
How old is she? She's like 37?
No one knows. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't want to know.
She came out of the lab from the movie Twins.
Could be. That's possible. Well, here's the other interesting thing about Kristen Faulkner. I gotta raise up an eyebrow to this. The USA Cycling selection process for the road race. Kristen Faulkner was not supposed to do this road race, Dan. The spot was given to Taylor Knibb, the person who loves crashing in the women's TT. She's going to do the triathlon as well. She gives up her spot to the alternate, which was Kristen Faulkner. She wins the road race. So now I'm asking, how do you choose your riders, USA Cycling, for these events? Taylor Knibb did no road races this year. She won Nationals TT, which makes sense why she would be selected for the TT. But what the hell's up with the road race? How did she get selected for that? She would not have finished this race, Dan, Taylor Knibb. There's no way.
Yeah, no, totally. It would have been a throw.
Yeah. So we would have been robbed of this awesome moment. I don't know what the hell's going on with the selection
No, you
process.
got to think some heads got to be rolling there because and I followed Kristen Faulkner on Instagram like right after she won, and I think she posted something or somebody posted something and tagged her in it, or Vic, holding the flag. And there was just a bunch of comments from other, I think, female professional cyclists, just like lamenting the USA cycling selection process and how messed up it was, because it's really almost never even, never
Weird.
had the chance to happen.
In
No, but
retrospect,
I don't know what it is, but like
I don't
clearly
know either. Nobody knows.
there's been a lot of disgruntled cyclists at least in the women's professional peloton though, about how it's been working.
Well, remember last year at Worlds, the USA selection for one of the men's road race spots was
it was John Cryer from 2.5 Men. I was like, what the fuck?
I will do 2.5 kilometers.
Yeah.
No, it was what's his name? He's from Utah. I should know. But he was a gravel racer. He's a phenomenal gravel racer. Did no road racing all season. Keegan Swenson.
Oh, Keegan Swenson? Yeah, he
was the selection. What? And they did this whole article like, look, Cervello got him a road bike. And I'm like, yeah, he's a phenomenal athlete. But did no USA riders want to do this race? I don't understand why he's the selection. What is going on with this? I think we need some fine tuning. And now I'll say, like, I have no idea how they select these things anyway. It's not like I'm basing this off of it. I'm just looking at the last couple years. And we were almost robbed of this moment. What if I told you in retrospect, the strongest rider in this women's field did not get selected for this race? You would think I'm crazy.
Yeah. Is this going into a 2020 election conspiracy? Because
oh, that's another podcast I'm doing, Dan. It's called Conspiracy Pat.
What if I told you?
That's right. The booking process at Flappers was rigged. Listen, I got hard data on that. Hard data. All right, track.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to understand, Dan. I am trying to understand. It's tough, but I really like track. It's fun to watch. It's fun. It's a great background watch too. Just have it on and leave it.
I like it too. I don't like how they're doing the events now. Like, it's weird. Like, it's so loaded with the time trial and pursuit and team sprint events, which aren't basically just time trials as well.
Yeah, it's weird they call it the sprint. You're right.
Yeah, and it's like, I think we have the Madison back, because I know the Madison was out of the Olympics. Maybe it was 2 Olympics ago.
Oh, really? And it's back, huh?
Madison's back. But like,
it's another fun one that I still don't understand,
because they're always changing.
Yeah, it's really, really tough.
Yeah, like so it's the Omnium. Wait, is there a Madison or am I? Yeah, no, there's a Madison, but there's no points race. There's no scratch race. Like
really?
Yeah.
Now the scratch is the one where just straight up 2 on, or is it a field?
The scratch is like a crit basically. Yeah, it's just.
And is it a field or is it two? Is it one of
them? It's a field.
Okay, great. Okay, that one's the easiest to wrap your head around. It's like, this is just a race. Okay,
well, that should definitely have. It's freaking awesome. I mean, the Madison points race is basically a one-man Madison, so at least we have the Madison. But like, those I think are the most exciting races to watch. Those in the sprints and the Kierans. And I just don't get why we don't get the Olympic treatment for those.
Track is very odd, and swimming is like this a little bit, where it's almost like, well, let's think of a way we can just farm events. We got swimming, okay, but now do it on your back. Okay, we got sprinting. All right, now do it with 5 of your buddies.
Yeah.
All right, like, it's just like, let's make an event. Let's just make events. And it's kind of set up great for the spectator, because we have all these undercards leading to the main event at the end of the night. So it's kind of cool, but it's confusing to figure out what's what. But I never turn away. Like, I have to watch it. Number one, I love how the athletes are essentially bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And they're on these little tiny bikes. Their bars are this wide.
Yeah, the bars are freaking ridiculous.
And they just go for it. It's really good. I haven't seen a good crash yet on the track. So you mentioned your favorite.
There are the mass start ones. And I will say, just because we're going to get killed in the comment section here. There is a scratch race and a points race within the Omnium. And Omnium's like a decathlon or whatever.
Right.
So we do get the
decathlon of cycling.
But they're I mean, there's world events for scratch and point races are specialties in their own right. So,
Mm-hmm.
and Omnium really is for an all arounder. I mean, you get yeah, you'll get some sprinters, some endurance riders, and and then they'll each do better in different races. But yeah, it this doesn't make sense to me that we have that they've just stuck it all in the Omnium, and then it's just one medal available for that. Like where
Yeah.
you can get and like swimming is like you get a medal for starting on this side of the pool, you get a medal for starting on that
Right.
side of the pool. 50 meters. Here's
Mm-hmm.
another one for 50 meters just because. Like, yeah, it's just
Right.
like
Totally. Yeah. And also the thing I like with track cycling is like sometimes your eye can be drawn to the infield and what the people are doing there.
well, I'll tell
As
you
the
where my eyes getting drawn there, Patrick. It's to that track booty, okay?
there's some big booties
Yeah, there's some
in
butts. We
cycling.
got track butts
track,
right now, okay? Yeah.
track butts.
Yeah, track
Just
butt is
huge legs and butts.
yeah.
And I saw one guy, they were doing the start where the bike is held in this apparatus, you know, and the guy starts and he spun out his rear wheel. Like he's pushing too hard on the pedals. So they're doing slow motion. All of a sudden he's like, ah, you know, and he kind of swerved into the infield a little bit and then brought it back. But it could have been disastrous.
He lost traction?
Yeah. He spun out, or he kind of like,
insane.
yeah, like it was not a smooth start. I like seeing the fuck ups.
Yeah.
In track because it's so simplistic. It's a bike in a gear. That's it. No switching gears, no brakes. Just here's a bike. Go around in circles.
And it's very hard to come back from a error. Like, yeah, if you're gonna fall on track, you're gonna fall. Like, you usually can't do much about it.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the falls are usually not as bad in track because.
Oh, really?
Okay. You almost always end up sliding down.
Sliding. That's true.
But
yeah, I liked watching the track. There's lots of stuff I like the infield. I like the coach with the iPad. He shows them their times when they come back. And I think it was Australia or maybe Great Britain. Their coach had a special signal. Like if they were up on the time they wanted, he stood between a certain line. And if they were down like 2/10, he took 2 steps.
Yeah.
So they could see him. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I like this.
Yeah, it's super rad.
Very interesting.
It's a very the person doing time pace that's the person's basically pacing you, and it's such a additional part of the team, and it's funny to see now. Like I remember seeing some of these coaches riding and seeing him in the Carson Velodrome when we had the Worlds there in I don't know 2004 or 5 or something. Gregory Baget now is one of the French coaches, and he was So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see.
I always learn something new when I watch track.
I do feel like what's missing, we don't get like we had for a while at least, is the crossover with road that we've had. I mean, I don't know. I guess we still do, but we don't have. I mean, when Bradley Wiggins was racing the Tour de France, he was also doing Olympic pursuit.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. We had some of that.
Was racing a bunch in the off season. We have Viviani, who I think is still.
Viviani was on Italy's track team, Ghana.
And there's definitely some women that cross.
Yeah, some of the women are.
But there's not a lot of the big superstars aside from Ghana and Viviani to some extent.
Yeah, that's a good point. The crossover would kind of help. Be like, oh, look, such and such from the tour is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're just in the cyclocross mountain bike years right now. It's going to happen, but.
Pidcock, get on it. You're a versatile rider.
Yeah, I'm like, how is Pidcock not on the track as well?
Yeah, really. Just does everything he can sort of get his hands on.
Yeah.
That guy, cross, MTB, road. Although him in the next 1 to 3 years on the road, I think is going to be very interesting to see. If he stays, what team he would be on, what he would be paid, because his road career has not been really that great over the last 5 years. So
yeah, and I
wonder.
think I could see him doing an early exit from road racing and becoming a gravel guy, especially if the money continues to go into gravel. Because I think he could really dominate there.
Interesting. Yeah, because as soon as he won mountain bike, like I think I saw posts about transfer talk in 24 hours about Pidcock. Like, okay, it's almost transfer season talk.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. All right, I got one last topic for the Olympics to talk with you about, Dan. This I always find the most interesting when we have nations coming together. Who do you find has the best national kits? because they change every year. They all represent their flag or the country some way, but I think some are better than others. You know, like we got the classic, I think Belgium and Italy are always like the perennial ones and twos. The Netherlands always has a pretty sharp kit. Great Britain had an interesting one this year with the dark navy blue. Ironically, I don't think USA has had a good national kit in a while.
Yeah.
They just had white USA black shorts. Like they were wearing a t-shirt and black shorts. So what kits stood out to you this year?
So I hadn't thought about this much. I had to go back and pull it up, some of them here. Yeah, USA kind of missed the mark. It doesn't look good in the skin.
I don't think there's any red in it. I think it's just white and blue.
Yeah, there's a little flag on the chest, and it's sort of echoing back to old school, white top, black shorts, but in the skin suit, it's all getting all messed up.
Yeah, it missed it for me. Stars and stripes are hard to pull off in a national kit. Like every year when we have the USA national champion, like some of those kits were hit or miss over the Levi years, the Hincapie years. It's tough to pull off. I'll give you that, USA, but I feel like it was too bland this year.
Yeah, I'll say the two that I liked. Well, because one was my wife pointed out that she really liked it, so I was like, yeah, it is nice. But and they're kind of similar. Is the Belgian kit and the Canadian kit.
Canada had a great one this year. Yeah.
The light blue, really the light blue is really looking good.
Just a single maple leaf
really helps the maple leaf come out too.
Yep, I'll agree with you. Canada looked good. I like how some countries they're like, yeah, we got a flag, but we also do these colors.
Yeah,
like the Netherlands is just orange. Like there's no orange in the Netherlands flag, but somehow they have adopted orange.
I love orange.
And Australia is like that too. They do yellow and green. Is for some reason Australia's colors.
A little tribal pattern going on there too.
Yeah. I got to say the sneaky underrated one for me every year is New Zealand. Just black.
Yeah.
Just the black with that
those
design.
Always actually, they look, on the track, they look rad.
Mexico had a good one this year with like a kind of a white fade into the green shorts. I thought Mexico looked really good as well. And then there was a guy, it was some super small country. I think it was like, they said it. He hung a lot. There was Botswana was a guy who hung on in the men's race a long time. But there was a guy, I don't know what country it was. It was just black and it was like Olympic stripes colors or something. Looked really, really sharp.
Oh, geez.
I know what country that was. But I thought that looked good. And Spain to me is the one that can look really good or look really horrible.
Yeah, it can
Tough
look very
colors.
cheap. So it looks like a tourist t-shirt, right? Like
it looks like McDonald's colors.
Yeah, totally.
And Ireland had a good one.
Yeah, Ireland was pretty good.
Really slick. I think when you think national colors, to me it's just Belgium and the Netherlands. It's just like, show me what you got.
Yeah.
And then Italy, like, because I know it's going to be crazy. Italy's another one. They adopt blue for some reason.
Yeah, the soccer team, everybody. I don't know how they got these colors.
I don't know how they get away with that. Like, we're blue. You don't have any blue in your flag. We're blue. Well, track cycling is our last event in the Olympics.
Yeah,
Dan, it's been a ride. It's been quite the summer.
Yeah, I've been having a blast. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been so stoked on the skateboarding, and I really like the surfing too. So.
Oh, you got into surfing, huh?
Yeah.
Very nice. I like it. It's pretty. Just so much sports going on.
Oh, and rugby. Rugby was really fun. If you watched any of that.
I saw some rugby.
And then we were watching the track and field thing too. We were watching the women's high jump, and my wife was there, and I'm like, these women are like beautiful models, right?
Yeah.
She's like,
when did it turn into female athletes also were supermodels? Like this used to be a realm of the uglies. Like, all right, you can't get a man by just your natural good looks. You play sports. Now, all the hot women play sports too, and they're good at it. It's really upsetting.
It is.
It is crazy. Remember when Anna Kournikova played tennis and we were like, look at this hot girl, but she's like, not that good at tennis.
Good at sports, yeah.
And then 10 years later, all these women are actually good at the sport. And this leads to me, what I do is now I just look them up on Instagram while I'm watching the sport.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of random, I'm following like most of the Japanese women cyclists. Because they all have their own IGs because they do the Kieran cycling there too. And
I found a few. I mean, I had a friend who found a few on OnlyFans.
What?
Yes.
You your
I mean, a
friend?
friend. I mean, what? Oh, we'll cut all this out. There
Rick.
are, there are more than one. Here's what you do these days, Dan. By the way, this podcast is going to take a turn. Anytime you see any woman of note, all you have to do is type in such and such name, leaked photos. You will have a 60% chance of finding photos. All these women just want to send nudes. It's insane. I found many of them like, oh, look at that. Now I can see her butt. It's pretty crazy. What a world we live in where nudity is not a life and death endeavor
I didn't
anymore.
believe you, but I did just search Patrick Ramirez leaked photos, and that's an interesting birthmark.
Yes. Well, ironically, I put those up, Dan. No one, those didn't leak. I actually put those
I didn't
up.
do leaked. It's cross that out, so we don't have to touch that. But wow.
Yeah.
I've heard. Yeah, that's good.
I put my own leaked photos up.
Wow.
Trying to generate a buzz, Dan.
Wow.
That's right.
I didn't know. I didn't know scrotums came in that color, but that's great. Really nice.
I'd been doing a lot of tanning that summer. I have a Nigerian dad.
That's why. I'll send you my passwords.
A lot of people don't know that about me.
I will say. Oh. The fashion people though. They should just put the Olympic athletes who like don't get paid anything. They should make them be models and get paid. Because honestly, that's like right now it's like a 17-year-old with a cocaine addiction and like and like in bulimia or something, like, you know, it's like, no, like at least get someone like with the abs or whatever to sell you a $3,000 handbag.
I totally agree. You think about it, like the Olympics is such a moneymaker, TV rights, all this stuff. Guess who makes no money? All the athletes.
Pretty much, yeah.
What if you went to a Broadway show and none of the actors were paid? It's insane. So these athletes,
it would be like going to a comedy show and you're like, these comics are not getting paid? This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Dan, you know, us paid comedians, you know, because one time I made $40, so I don't know if that puts me in the elite company or not, but I did get $40 and a hamburger once.
A comic once just sent me some leaked photos. That was counts, yeah.
I'm gonna start my own account. Yeah, so I don't fault these athletes at all for trying to milk something out of this, because like, hey, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm hoping that I get a medal, great, but that needs to lead to something. I need to put some pictures of my ass up somehow if I'm a hot girl or something, because this is just a tremendous business for the Olympics, and that's it. Who owns the Olympics?
I think the dudes should do it too.
Ladies, all this complaint about we don't make as much as men. Hey, dudes, try and make an OnlyFans account. See how much money you make. You will make negative money.
The red, white, and blue colors of your headband appear to have been soaking right into your brain and activating a side of Patrick I have not seen before.
I told you, I get very passionate about these games, Dan. Passionate about triathletes crashing.
Are you still in Texas?
Yeah. I'm in a bunker. I made my own bunker. I have a direct line to Flappers. That's right. Yeah, and then I just type in names and write leaked at the end of it. That's what I do, Dan. Listen, I got to make my own business venture. But it is a great world, because remember we had like the era of like female like porn stars, like they were in regular pop culture. Like there were no such thing as dude porn stars. No. It was like, we need to see the hot chicks and we don't care about the dudes. It's just it's not right, it's not wrong. It just is. We want to know about this stuff. And thank God for OnlyFans. I found 4 of them on OnlyFans. Wow. They know what to do. They know the market's out there. God bless them.
Interesting.
It's really good. Did you watch one of the girls, I think it was the pole vaulting. She's a supermodel, or looks like a supermodel. She made this crazy height, and she ran off the pad that catches her, and she does a full-on twerk.
Dang. And
I was like, they only showed it once. I was like, put that in the corner and just let it go for the next 30 minutes. It was awesome. Dan, these chicks just want to be naked and sensual on screen, and God bless them.
There was just to lend some parody to the podcast, I will say there was also some bear surfer buns on I think that was a wardrobe malfunction, but there was definitely
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
some dude's butthole definitely made.
You're running around in these like small little coverings. Like we're gonna see some butts. We're gonna see that one guy hit his dick on the pole, the pole vault. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. Where's the Olympics bloopers video?
Yeah, seriously.
That's they're leaving money on the table there. All right, you want to talk about cycling? Sorry. Beyond that, I have no thoughts on the matter.
Okay.
Dan Dowling, that was our cycling Olympic recap for the summer. It was awesome. There's still a little bit of cycling left, and the summer's not over. We still got more cycling to go.
Yeah, I mean, next time something big happens, we'll be back right here.
We'll be back, Dan. All right, Dan, good talking to you.
All right, bye, Patrick.
Thanks, buddy.